Guys, so today we're going to go over two concepts in 403 and 404. The first one is coterminal angles. So coterminal angles, when they give you an angle, a coterminal angle will start at the same place as the given angle, as well as stop at the same place as the given angle. So the only way to do that is if you were to add or subtract a full rotation, because the only way you can start and stop at the same place is if you made a full circle. So I'm going to try to draw that out a little bit here. So for instance, 30 degrees would start at 0 and ends about here. So just note from here to here would be 30 degrees. So a coterminal angle would start and stop at the same place. So if I were to add 360 to it, I would still start here, but I would just go around the circle one time before stopping at the same terminal angle as 30 degrees, or the same terminal side as 30 degrees. So when they ask for one positive and one negative, that means for the positive, I would just add 360 degrees, and that full rotation that I did is actually a value of 390 degrees. So that would be a coterminal angle. Usually it also asks for a negative value, but note that there's an infinite amount of coterminal angles. So for instance, I could go around the circle once, add 360, that's a coterminal angle. Or I could do it again, add another 360, and again, and again, and again. As long as it starts and stops at the same spot, which is done by just adding a full rotation, it is a coterminal angle. So they're asking for a negative coterminal as well. So that just means instead of going counterclockwise, I'm going to go clockwise. So from here, I would still start at 0, but I would go around the circle this way. I know, not the best drawing, before stopping at the same place as I started. So to do that algebraically, I would just take 30 degrees minus 360 degrees, and that would be negative 330 degrees. So that would be my positive and negative coterminal angle. Now, when you have the value in radians, that means you would add or subtract 2 pi instead. Still a full circle, but we're keeping the values the same as the angles format. So with pi over 5, instead of adding 360, I would add 2 pi. And I have gone over in a couple videos how I add fractions. I don't do common denominators, but you are more than welcome to. So 2 pi would be 2 pi over 1. I use what's called crisscross applesauce. So criss left and down first. Pi times 1 is pi. Plus, because there's a plus in the middle. So criss cross. 2 pi times 5 gives me 10 pi. And then all over applesauce. 5 times 1, which is 5. And then remember there's a 1 in front of this pi, so 1 pi plus 10 pi would give me 11 pi over 5. That is a positive coterminal angle. It will start at the same initial side as pi over 5 and end at the same terminal side as pi over 5. So same initial and terminal sides for both. For the negative, I would take pi over 5 and this time subtract 2 pi, which fraction form 2 pi over 1. And when you're adding or subtracting fractions using the method crisscross applesauce, it's the same deal. Just make sure you always go left and down first, because when you're subtracting, obviously the order matters. So pi times 1 is still pi, but this time minus between the two fractions. So I'll write minus. And then I have criss. So from here, cross, I'm trying to keep it the same color coordinate. And 5 times 2 pi would give me 10 pi. And then over applesauce, which is still the same thing, over 5. So in this case, I would have 1 minus 10 pi. 1 pi minus 10 pi would give me negative 9 pi over 5. So I have a positive coterminal angle and a negative coterminal angle. All right, and now in 404, you'll note that you're given a point. So I just chose the point -1, -3. And I'm going to plot that point. So -1, -3. So I'm in the third quadrant. Just note that. You're in quadrant 3. from here, it's asking you to find the cosine, sine, and tangent values. So just know that everything given to you in this section, in this module, you can use right triangles. So if I were to use Sohcahtoa, remember that your triangle, your reference triangle, I should state, always sits on the x-axis. So we are already aware that with this triangle, the adjacent side, or the side the angle sits on, is a distance of 1, because from here to here. And then we also know that the opposite side of that given angle has a length of 3, because notice it's already given for the y value. We'll worry about the positive and negatives later, because note we also know that we're in quadrant 3. And in quadrant 3, only all students take calculus, only tangent is positive there. So we'll just note that after. So in this case, we need the third side in order to apply Sohcahtoa. So Pythagorean Theorem, we're going to use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So I have 1 squared plus 3 squared equals c squared. So 1 plus 9 equals c squared, which would be 10. And to get rid of the square, we square root it. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. So c equals to the square root of 10. Some of you have asked why not positive and negative. Remember that you're dealing with length here, so it's always going to be positive. So from here, now that we have everything, we're going to apply Sohcahtoa. So sine of theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. The opposite side is 3. The hypotenuse is square root of 10. And usually we don't leave the radical in the denominator. We rationalize it, meaning we multiply it by itself. Whatever we do here, we do the same to the top to keep it balanced. And that would give me 3 square root of 10 over 10. Because square root of 10 times square root of 10 is square root of 100, which is just 10. And luckily we're right here. Knowing we're in quadrant 3, we also know that sine is negative because only tangent is positive in quadrant 3. And for cosine, cosine of theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. So the adjacent side is 1, and the hypotenuse is square root of 10. So again, we rationalize, and that would give us square root of 10 over 10, and it would be negative, because we're in quadrant 3. Now, if you don't want to remember what quadrant you're in, you could use the negative values they give you with the x and the y value. I just choose not to do that because it's just instilled in me that it's length, so it can't be negative. Okay, so tangent equals opposite over adjacent. So my opposite side is 3, my adjacent side is 1, so 3 over 1 is just 3. So there's your sine, cosine, and tangent values. Hope this helps, guys.